So I was sat at the kitchen table and my housemate walks in. He's an older guy, he's a millennial, and he lost his job about 4 or 5 months ago. Since then, he was frantically looking for another one. He really didn't want to move back home because if he didn't find a job soon, he would have had to move back in with his parents. And at his age, you could tell he really didn't want to do that. He spoke about it like it was some sort of doomsday scenario. So he's looking pissed. I naturally ask him, like, how are you doing, man? Because I always check up on him at this point because I know he's going through it. He says nothing. He just sits down at the table, stays silent for about 10 seconds, and then he explodes. Like, literally goes on a massive rant for the next 5 minutes. And I'm not going to repeat everything he said, but the one thing that stuck out to me was when he said, I did everything right and it was worth nothing. Now, if there was a sentence that summed up the general millennial feeling, that would be it. They feel like they did everything right and it was worth nothing. He'd fallen for the scam, essentially. So, what do I mean by the scam? Well, a scam is the accepted narrative that if you follow the set path in life, the right path, you will be successful in life. You do well in school, you get a good job, you start a family, you buy property, work happily until you retire, and then your pensions look after you. Life's good. I'm saying scam now, but in reality, this was the meta. It worked in the past. For the generations before millennials, so Gen X and boomers, this path gave them a simple yet fulfilling life and allowed them to build wealth. So naturally, they passed on this advice to the next generation until it stopped being true. Because back then, one single household income could support an entire family and even afford some basic luxuries like an annual holiday. Whereas now you need a high earning, high stress career just to afford the same lifestyle a postman could back then, and he had a stay at home wife. The types of jobs that burn you out and make you question whether the higher pay is even worth it, or whether the good life is worth dying for early from the inevitable health problems that will come from it. So when I say that the earlier generations passed down this advice, millennials actually saw it to be true with their own eyes. So they fell for the scam, they bought into it. And what did they buy into exactly? Their wages decreasing in real terms over time, their purchasing power degrading immensely to the point where even basic living costs aren't covered by a salary, their pension age being pushed back further and further. At least under slavery, your food and place to stay were guaranteed. And people wonder why there's a birth rate crisis now. The right path myth back then is the equivalent to what a crypto rug pull is now. Millennials were promised the life of their forefathers, so they did everything right. And then when it came to receive it, they found that the game had completely changed. So now they're left stuck and bitter like my housemate. So let's talk Gen Z. They've seen firsthand the situation of millennials, so they know the game's finished. It's not like the millennials who were convinced because they saw the results of the advice they were given. So a lot of Gen Z are just opting out of the system and have this mindset of can't lose if you don't play. Does anyone remember the time before food delivery? This is a slight tangent here, but I was thinking about it, about how back then fast food workers only had to deal with store customers and drive-throughs, but now they've got to also deal with thousands of online orders per day. Like those jobs used to have some sort of downtime, but now they literally work like machines. It's crazy. Does their pay reflect that? Have a think. And you might think, oh well, they'll just hire more people if there's more work. But trust me, like I know corporations, the increase in headcount is never proportional to the increase in workload. So in other words, over time, you've been working more and earning less. It's the same situation across the board. More work, less pay, 3% annual increases if you ask nicely. Nice little offset for that 11% inflation. That's a figure from 2022, by the way, but just ask yourself, have prices actually come down from then? Did they really? Did your wages ever increase to match that? The sad truth is that Gen Z have just given up hope. A degree doesn't guarantee a good job. A job doesn't guarantee affording a family and housing. The pension age just keeps increasing, probably will increase more. The right path has just broken down at all points. And this has led to a sort of desperation within Gen Z. And you see it in how they essentially gamble in crypto scams or weird business investments just trying to get rich quick at any cost. Understand that it's precisely this situation that has led to the rise of characters like Tate. You can attribute it entirely. The rise of these messiahs who can help you from the pit that you find yourself in. This was a whole load of doomer discussion, and that doesn't really help anyone. So I do want every one of my videos to offer you some sort of value. So here's what you can do. Work on eliminating the bad habits that don't serve you. You have to control what you can, and that starts with yourself. And it really is the basic stuff like scrolling useless content, eating junk food, being physically inactive. You need to work on undoing those addictions ASAP. Learn to leverage the tool technology is bringing you rather than being used by them. Learning instead of scrolling, creating instead of consuming. I appreciate this is all easier said than done, and I have written guides specifically on how you can do this. I always link them in the description, and that's a really good place to start if you're serious about change. My final piece of advice is to be as adaptable as possible. Just remember, it's not the strongest that survives, it's not the smartest either, but it's the most adaptable that survives. And in a chaotic time like this, your lifetime, where you will soon witness entire industries collapse in months, adaptability is everything. So focus on that. Good luck.